I'm very interested to also hear your perspective in terms of, the different creative outlets that are music and films. For you as a creator, can you let me know what are the differences for you between these creative outlets, and what are the main specifics for you when it comes to approaching either of them?
I don't know that there's a set approach. Sometimes I'll watch it, like if I'm doing it myself, if I'm going to score it, I'll watch a scene that I've done and I'll start noodling around on the keyboard and start getting some sounds, and this would be cool with strings, or this would be cool with, this pulsating sound or whatever. And sometimes I'll take a break from editing and I'll just start recording music for a couple of days. And, I'll take the vibe of what I wrote, what I shot, what I'm editing, and I'll just create different pieces of music and then figure out where they can go after the fact. And sometimes I've worked with other people who've scored, movies that I'm editing or producing or whatever, and they give me, 20 pieces of music that are 16 tracks, stems of horns and this, and it's just a file. And they're like, I trust you, put it where you think, and you can delete the horns and the strings and just use this and this, or you can raise this, So I'll go and I'll figure out where I think it works best. And then I really don't need 16 instruments going here. I only need 4. Let's use these 4 here, but then I can have it kind of come back around again later where I pull out these 2, but add 3 other tracks. So it's still the similar vibe, but it's different instrumentation. So again, to me, that is one of the fun parts, is getting to the sound design and, the mixing and stuff, because again, that's what I did for, a decade and a half. Was I loved mixing. Like as much as I loved recording and layering stuff, all that was done just so I could then sit and mix. I was more of a hands-on mixer than, getting into Pro Tools and just assigning faders to do this and that. To me, part of the performance was actually the live mixing. And did I get that up fast enough? And was this too loud? And, pan this left and have some reverb. And, that to me was the exciting part for a long time in my life. So getting to that point in making the movies, and again, that's one of the things I like about Ophelia, is if you put on headphones and watch the short and listen, it sounds really cool.
Yes, I completely agree with that. This is actually, what really impressed me, because as I've said, probably the biggest part for having a proper horror experience for me is exactly the sound design. And when I was watching the short, and as I was listening to it, was like such a big part of the whole experience. It was so cool. So
thank you.
Of course. So speaking about the failure, I read that obviously you're working on sequels, and this won't be the only installment. In terms of that. So can you tell anything about what can be expected about the story? Obviously, I know it's a very tricky question, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. Creating a horror universe, like one of the things that I appreciate about some of the stuff that Blumhouse, which is a great horror production scenario, like they had some things that kind of fed off each other. And some of the cool stuff I think does play into different movies within the confines. So that's what I did with the Ophelia character is, like I said, create this universe based around this fictitious asylum that housed the worst of the worst. And each movie that I've written or am writing, both on my own and with my partner, Robert McCann, takes place within this universe. So there can be some crossover. You know, if I'm doing a found footage movie, you know, in this creepy house, some of the backstory can be relevant in a traditional shot scary movie where it's in the hospital now of the doctor and you meet different characters, yet it's all still kind of playing off each other. So that's what's in the works right now.
Oh, that sounds so interesting. I'm very much looking forward to see, you know, how this will develop with the time. And, you know, to sort of finish here, I'm really curious and I'll be so interested to hear, like, you know, as a horror movie fan and as, you know, as someone who appreciates this genre, what for you are like your favorite horror movies, directors, books, like authors? Like, I would love to hear your preferences.
When I was a little kid, I really liked Alfred Hitchcock short stories. Read a couple Stephen King books early on. One of the first books I bought with my own money was the Amityville Horror.
Wow, yeah.
My grandma bought me Jaws, which was very, very long. It was a very, very long book. So that was some of the early stuff. You know, I enjoyed reruns as a kid, you know, staying home from school and watching the Munsters and Addams Family and, you know, that kind of stuff. But getting into the movies, like I said, John Carpenter's Halloween opened the door. I love all his movies. You can definitely tell they're his. Wes Craven too. Really enjoyed some bizarre movies from the 80s and what have you, like The Fun House was a really bad but great one. You know, so that kind of stuff was my influence. And as far as what I go back to, like every year, no matter what, I can watch the original Halloween, the original Halloween Part 2. You know, those two I can watch every year, no matter what. I did enjoy the Blair Witch Project when it first came out, just because it was unique, even though a movie called The Last Broadcast did it first. And they don't get as much love as they should. But it was just, it let you know that you could do it a different way. And then when Scream came out, you know, that kind of changed everything again to where you can kill off the main character in the first 7 minutes of the movie. You know, and Hitchcock did that obviously with Psycho. You know, it was longer than 7 minutes, of course, but, you know, nobody really expected, you know, Janet Leigh, her character to not make it through the whole movie. And that was kind of a shocker. And so I appreciate Hitchcock. I watch, you know, Strangers on a Train and Rope and North by Northwest and Vertigo and The Birds and Psycho. Like, he's the master. I can also attribute quite a bit to The Twilight Zone. You know, really loved watching those old reruns. Rod Serling had a second show called The Night Gallery, which I think personally I find creepier than The Twilight Zone, even though The Twilight Zone was extremely groundbreaking and great. But I'm sure I'm missing a ton. I even like crazy movies like Lake Placid, a giant alligator in a, that was it was creepy and fun. And, so.
Yeah. And what are your general thoughts on the whole trend right now with, sequels of well-established franchises, with the newest Exorcist and with Evil Dead and all of these?
Well, Evil Dead's another one, I should say. I can watch the Evil Dead movies over and over and over.
So good, yeah.
But Sam's middle movies I really like A Simple Plan. Yes. Is such a great Sam Raimi movie. That's one I can watch over and over and over and over. But then I like Dodgeball, and I like, There's Something About Mary, and I like Talladega Nights and Anchorman and Step Brothers and, Happy Gilmore. But as far as the trend, I'll say it's tough because it's easy for us to say, leave the legacy alone.
Yeah.
But the people who own the intellectual property, if they need to or can make a living off of, selling certain rights and things, they should be able to, It's been a long time since the original Halloween. And if John Carpenter and Deborah Hill's estate can still make money off of that, they should, because they gave us something special, and they should not be penalized for doing something great that people can still generate revenue off of. So as a filmmaker, to me, it's no different than when a musician sold the rights to their songs when they were a kid, fighting their whole life to get them back, and then being able to make money off of their old songs. I don't have a problem with that.
That's such a great perspective, to be fair. And last question, regardless of the genre, what's the most recent best movie that you've watched? What was the last thing that you watched and that you really liked?
I'm going to say Megan.
Nice. Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. And it was a touch on, where AI can go wrong. And it's really poignant now. But I mean, I like a lot of movies. I don't have to love a movie to like and enjoy watching a movie. I have friends and things that it's like every movie has to be the greatest movie they ever watched. That's not sustainable. You can enjoy something for what it is and still enjoy the great thing that you love when it's time, So it's with people complaining about certain Marvel or DC movies versus other Marvel or DC movies. It's like, they don't all have to be Endgame.
Absolutely.
They can't. You can't have a 900 person, 30-minute finale in every movie. So be okay with Black Widow, be okay with, these certain approaches, and just know that when you get that other thing, then you can love it. But
absolutely.
I thought Megan was great. I like Blumhouse's approach to the movies they're backing and putting out and stuff. Just like I loved Ghost House, which is Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert's company, when they were really active in putting movies out under their label, because they have pride, and they have a way that they like doing things and putting their name on things. And, and Wes Craven too, you knew that it may not be the greatest movie ever,
but it was fun. Yeah.
it was going to be solid. Everybody likes what they like. So you can't love every movie by every filmmaker except maybe Tarantino. And then there's still it's because he hasn't done 47 movies.
Yeah, exactly.
When you do 10, you can really, 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 really hyper focus on making it, the best thing it can be. So there you go.